Brighton, England, August 15, 2003. A carefree birthday party ends in a single, shattering moment when a little girl vanishes without a trace. 20 years later, her brother, now a seasoned investigative reporter in London, opens a glossy fashion magazine and freezes. The model on the cover carries the same unmistakable white streak of hair as his missing sister. From that instant, his life and the quiet seaside mystery that never let him go spirals into a high-stakes hunt through the glittering, dangerous world of haute couture. Oliver Brooks glanced at the sky as dusk painted Brighton in hues of pink and violet, the salty ocean breeze blowing gently against his face. He stood in the backyard of his family's modest home, strings of small, glowing bulbs casting a warm, golden glow over the small gathering. Today he turned 17, and although his parents offered a big celebration, Oliver insisted on a small one, only family and close friends. He preferred intimacy and authenticity, especially since the arrival of Rachel 4 years ago had made their family whole. Rachel was the center of his universe, the tiny girl who had stolen everyone's hearts, especially his. Oliver. Oliver, look! Rachel shouted joyfully, bouncing toward him across the garden, her small orange dress billowing around her knees as she ran. Oliver bent down, his arms open wide. She leaped into him, laughing uncontrollably, her delicate dark hair cascading over her shoulders, a striking white streak running from the top of her head to the ends of her silky strands, a unique birthmark Oliver found adorable. "Happy birthday, Ollie," she exclaimed breathlessly, her brown eyes wide and sparkling, cheeks flushed with excitement. "Thank you, Princess," Oliver said softly, squeezing her in a tight hug before gently setting her back down. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a disposable camera he bought that morning. "Want to take a picture with me?" "Yes." "Picture, picture." Rachel clapped her hands eagerly, grinning from ear to ear. Oliver held the camera out at arm's length, pulling Rachel close. He felt the weight of her small, warm body against his side. He smiled broadly, her laughter ringing in his ear as the camera clicked, capturing their moment of pure, carefree happiness. It was a perfect snapshot, one he'd cherish forever, even though he didn't yet know just how precious it would become. Nearby, their parents, Marcus and Eleanor Brooks, smiled proudly as they watched their children. Eleanor's eyes misted slightly. These simple moments always touched her deeply. Marcus wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "They grow up so fast," Eleanor whispered. "Yeah," Marcus replied warmly, "but look at them." "We did all right, didn't we?" Eleanor nodded, her gaze never leaving Rachel, now running circles around Oliver, who playfully pretended to chase her. Their laughter blended with the chatter of guests, neighbors, and relatives who'd come to share in the modest festivities. As evening descended, the smell of grilled food lingered in the air, mingling with the sweet fragrance of Eleanor's freshly baked chocolate cake. Friends mingled in small groups, their voices floating into the warm night air. Everyone seemed carefree, completely unaware that their joy was about to shatter. Oliver stood near his closest friend, Jake Miller, their quiet conversation broken by occasional bursts of laughter. Rachel had been playing with Jake's younger sister, Lucy, only moments earlier. Oliver glanced around, suddenly aware of Rachel's absence. "Jake, did you see Rachel?" Oliver asked casually, not yet worried, but curious. Jake shrugged. "Probably. Inside getting more cake." Oliver nodded absently, stepping inside the softly lit kitchen. The room was empty, save for the remnants of the birthday cake sitting on the counter. "Rachel?" he called gently. No answer. A sudden unease tightened his stomach. Oliver checked her bedroom, then his own, both empty. His heart quickened. He hurried back outside, calling louder now, "Rachel!" Eleanor's laughter faltered as she caught the strain in Oliver's voice. "Oliver, what's wrong? Mom, have you seen Rachel?" "I can't find her," he asked urgently. Marcus stood abruptly, the concern clear on his face. "She was just here a minute ago." Within seconds, the festive mood evaporated. Guests murmured nervously, looking around. Jake called out Rachel's name as Marcus hurried out front, checking the driveway and the street beyond. Oliver ran down the side of the house, his breathing rapid, pulse pounding in his ears. He reached the sidewalk, eyes scanning frantically. No sign of Rachel. His thoughts raced, panic building. "Rachel! Rachel, answer me!" Oliver's voice cracked, desperation setting in. Neighbors stepped outside, attracted by the commotion. Porch lights flickered on, illuminating the street, but Rachel remained nowhere to be found. Police arrived swiftly, lights flashing silently, casting unsettling shadows on the quiet street. Officer Lavra Harrington stepped from the vehicle, her eyes quickly assessing the situation. Eleanor stood near Marcus, trembling visibly, tears streaming down her face. "Tell me exactly when you last saw her," Lavra said gently but firmly. "She was just here with Lucy. It couldn't have been more than 10 minutes ago." Oliver choked out, guilt flooding his heart. How could he lose sight of her? She trusted him, depended on him. Within an hour, the once cheerful backyard became the epicenter of a desperate search. Flashlights sliced through darkness as officers and neighbors combed nearby yards and alleys. Oliver watched numbly as a police dog sniffed one of Rachel's small shoes, left abandoned by the garden gate. The investigation intensified quickly. Friends and neighbors were questioned carefully, suspicion hovering uncomfortably over the gathering. Whispers spread about the possibility of an abductor, sending a chill through Brighton. Oliver overheard snippets of conversations among detectives, each word deepening his anguish. Could have slipped away unnoticed. No suspicious vehicles reported. Check the pier area again, widen the perimeter. Days blurred together, but there were no new leads. Rachel seemed to have vanished completely, leaving behind only grief and unanswered questions. The Brooks family home, once warm and inviting, turned cold and silent. Oliver sat alone in Rachel's room, holding the little shoe the police returned. After days of futile searching, the scent of her shampoo lingered faintly on the pillow, breaking his heart all over again. "Oliver," Marcus said quietly, standing in the doorway. "You need rest. You've barely eaten or slept." Oliver shook, his head, his voice trembling. "How can I rest? How can I eat knowing Rachel's out there somewhere, scared and alone?" Marcus lowered himself slowly onto the edge of Rachel's bed, eyes red-rimmed from exhaustion and sorrow. "The police are doing everything they can. We need to trust them." Oliver's eyes burned with unshed tears. "It was my fault, Dad. She was right next to me. How did I let this happen?" Marcus pulled Oliver into his arms, holding him tightly. "This isn't your fault. Don't ever think that." But Oliver couldn't believe him. The guilt was suffocating, relentless. Weeks passed without answers. False leads emerged, suspects questioned and released. Every failed search felt like losing Rachel again and again. The police investigation slowed. Media attention faded, leaving behind only emptiness. Late one evening, after yet another failed lead, Oliver wandered down to the empty Brighton beach. Waves crashed quietly in the distance, moonlight dancing on the water's surface. He felt hollow, hopeless. He stared at the dark ocean, fists clenched, jaw tight with determination. Rachel was alive. He could feel it deep inside. Wherever she was, he would find her. "No matter how long it took, I'll never stop looking for you," he whispered fiercely into the night. "I promise." London, 2023. The steady hum of traffic was a backdrop Oliver Brooks had grown accustomed to. Living in a small flat above a bustling cafe in Soho, he had chosen this place intentionally. Noise distracted him from silence, and silence always brought memories rushing back, raw and unfiltered. He sat rigidly in the plush leather chair of Dr. Patel's dental office, fingers drumming impatiently on his knee. He hated dentists, not out of fear, but because sitting idle left him with too much time to think. His eyes wandered aimlessly around the impeccably clean waiting room, noticing how the bright overhead lights reflected off the polished white tiles. He tried distracting himself, running through mental lists and unfinished articles. It didn't help. A coffee table stacked with glossy magazines caught his eye, and, desperate for distraction, he leaned forward, reaching for one. Madella, a popular fashion publication, was something he'd typically ignore, but at this point, anything was preferable to silence. Oliver flipped mindlessly through the pages of luxurious clothing, perfume ads, and interviews with celebrities whose names he barely recognized. He was about to toss it back when the cover caught his attention again, a striking woman with silky dark hair that framed an elegant, perfectly symmetrical face. Something inside his chest froze instantly, his heart beating hard enough to ache. It wasn't just her beauty that made him pause. It was a distinctive, unmistakable white streak running through her otherwise dark hair. His breath became shallow. Oliver stared, every muscle tensed as memories surged back. Rachel's tiny fingers clutching his hand, her joyful laugh, her warm little body hugging him tightly, her dark hair with that same singular white streak. "Rachel?" he whispered shakily. His hands trembled violently, eyes darting across the magazine's surface, searching desperately for the model's name. Amelia Knight, fashion's mysterious new face, read the caption beneath the photo. The receptionist's voice snapped him back to reality. "Mr. Brooks, Dr. Patel is ready for you." Oliver rose unsteadily, gripping the magazine tightly. Can I keep this?" She smiled politely. Of course. During the dental procedure, his mind raced uncontrollably. He barely felt the drills or heard Dr. Patel's reassuring murmurs. All he could think about was Rachel. 20 years he'd searched, and now she was possibly staring back at him from a glossy magazine cover. He left the office in a daze, the magazine crushed between his fingers. Back home, Oliver quickly flipped open his laptop, typing Amelia Knight into every search engine he could find. Results were scant, almost frustratingly so. No birth date, no hometown, no background information. Her career seemingly sprang from nowhere, elevating her to international stardom practically overnight. "Elegance London," Oliver murmured, noticing the editorial credit prominently featured. Without hesitation, he grabbed his jacket and headed out into the cool London air. Heart pounding wildly. The headquarters of Elegance London sat in a gleaming skyscraper on Regent Street. Oliver strode toward the reception desk, voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I need to speak to someone who handles your modeling division," he said firmly. The receptionist eyed him skeptically, taking in his rumpled appearance and desperate eyes. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent," Oliver pressed. "Please, I just need a minute." "I'm sorry, sir, but everyone's booked today." "You'll have to schedule an appointment through the online form." Oliver sighed in frustration, stepping back and looking around helplessly. He scanned the glass-walled offices, hoping for a familiar face, but saw only strangers. Security approached subtly, observing him cautiously. "Right, thank you," he said curtly, turning abruptly to exit. His frustration mounting, Oliver stood, On the street, breathing heavily, a quiet fury in his eyes, he knew he needed help. He hadn't seen Laura Harrington since he was a teenager, yet somehow he still remembered exactly how she took her coffee, strong and bitter. Lavra had moved her private detective agency to Camden, running her business out of a small but respectable office above an old bookstore. When Oliver arrived, Lavra was sitting at her cluttered desk, files stacked precariously high, illuminated by a single desk lamp. She looked older, worn, but her sharp blue eyes still held the intensity Oliver remembered vividly. "Hello, Oliver," she said quietly, as if expecting this moment for years. Lavra. He hesitated at the threshold. Memories flooded his mind. The night she'd sat up late at their kitchen table, promising they'd find Rachel, never giving up even when everyone else had. "Come in, have a seat," she said gently. Sensing his hesitation, Oliver sat stiffly, carefully, laying the magazine between them. Laura's eyes narrowed, immediately noticing the familiar white streak in the model's hair. "Rachel?" she asked quietly. Oliver nodded solemnly, his voice thick with emotion. "I think so, but now she goes by Amelia Knight. There's almost no information online." The magazine stonewalled me completely. Lavra picked up the magazine carefully, studying the image intensely. "She's hiding Oliver. Or someone is hiding her. No one has this little background information by accident." Oliver's fists clenched unconsciously. "I need your help, Laura. I can't do this alone. You're the only one who knows what this means to me." Lavra sighed heavily, the weight of 20 years pressing down on her once again. "Of course, I'll help you. Rachel's case has haunted me every day since I retired from the force." They sat quietly, each silently recalling the chaos and pain from 2 decades prior, the unanswered questions and the haunting emptiness Rachel's disappearance had left behind. "Do you have any theories?" Oliver asked eventually, voice barely above a whisper. Lavra glanced up, eyes hardening with seriousness. "People don't vanish without help. Rachel wasn't taken randomly. Whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing, covering every trace. If she's resurfacing now, it's risky for her, for us. Are you prepared for that?" "I'll do whatever it takes," Oliver answered instantly, his eyes blazing with determination. Lara stood slowly, moving toward a filing cabinet filled with faded papers. "Then we start where we left off at the beginning. I'll dig into Amelia Knight, see who handles her bookings, who pays her bills. You look into recent photo shoots, appearances, anything that can lead us directly to her." The days following passed slowly, each moment a test of Oliver's patience. Lavra meticulously combed through records and photographs, searching desperately for connections. Oliver pored over magazines, online galleries, fashion blogs, obsessed with tracing Amelia Knight's every move. Every lead seemed to vanish into smoke. The model's life remained frustratingly private, protected behind multiple layers of secrecy. One night, after another fruitless day, Oliver stood gazing out at London's city lights, phone buzzing suddenly. In his pocket, it was Lavra. Lavra, any luck? Oliver's voice shook with hope and anxiety. "I found something, Oliver. It's disturbing." Lavra hesitated slightly, voice strained with tension. "What is it?" "I traced a recent contract of Amelia's back to an offshore account. The same account was linked previously to disappearances I investigated years ago. Oliver, this isn't a coincidence. She's connected to powerful people, dangerous people. We need to be careful." Oliver gripped the phone tightly, anger and fear pulsing through his veins. His voice came cold and steady, brimming with determination. "I don't care who they are or how powerful. We're going to find her, Lara. Rachel deserves the truth. We both do." The line remained silent briefly before Laura responded, her voice calm but somber. "All right, Oliver. But you must be ready, because what we uncover might change everything we thought we knew." Oliver nodded silently to himself, staring out at the glittering lights of the city below. 20 years of waiting, and finally he felt close. Closer than ever. But a quiet fear lingered beneath his resolve. What if the truth was darker than he imagined? What if Rachel was someone entirely different now, someone he didn't recognize? He pushed the thought away. All that mattered now was finding her. And as he stood there, he vowed once again that nothing, not even the powerful shadows that guarded her secrets, would keep him from uncovering the truth. Oliver sat at Laura's cluttered desk, nursing a steaming cup of bitter coffee. The single bulb overhead cast long shadows across piles of yellowed documents, photographs pinned chaotically on the wall, each connected by strings trails of unsolved cases Laura had dedicated years of her life to. Rachel's face, as Oliver remembered it, was prominently displayed among them. Laura paced the room slowly, her footsteps heavy on the worn carpet. Her eyes narrowed, scanning reports. She'd barely slept in days. Oliver watched her closely, knowing she'd seen far too many young lives ruined, too many families left heartbroken. "We have to approach carefully," Laura murmured, breaking the heavy silence. "These people are ruthless. You saw the links. Amelia is closely tied to a ring that's very adept at hiding their tracks." Oliver clenched the coffee mug tighter, his jaw tense. "But if we can get close enough, even just for a minute, I'll know for sure if it's Rachel. We need that certainty." Laura stopped pacing, turning toward Oliver. Her gaze was intense, filled with concern. "Oliver, listen carefully. If Amelia really is Rachel, confronting her publicly might put her life and yours at even greater risk. We must be smart." Oliver nodded, the urgency vibrating within him. "What do you suggest?" Laura moved to her desk, pulling out an invitation embossed in gold lettering. "There's a private fashion show tomorrow night at an exclusive club called the Midnight Lounge. Amelia is the headline model. It's exactly the kind of place Julian Beaumont attends." "Julian Beaumont?" Oliver questioned, frowning. Laura's face darkened, her voice lowered. "A powerful stylist, very well connected. I've seen his name linked to several disappearances over the years, but he's always untouchable. His influence extends far beyond fashion. If Rachel is under his control, confronting her won't be easy." Oliver stared at the invitation, determination etched deeply on his features. "Then we get into that club." The next night, Oliver adjusted the dark jacket Laura provided him, nerves pulsing in his veins as they approached the discreet entrance of the Midnight Lounge. Laura wore a sleek black dress, her demeanor composed, despite the tension evident in her gaze. At the velvet rope, a tall, muscular security guard eyed them suspiciously. Laura held up the invitation, keeping a cool, authoritative stance. After a hesitant pause, he waved them inside. The room was dim, heavy with the scent of expensive perfume and whiskey. Ambient blue and violet lights illuminated carefully posed guests, whispers mixed with laughter, creating an atmosphere both luxurious and unnerving. Oliver scanned the faces anxiously, each heartbeat thumping louder than the deep bass music reverberating through the room. "This way," Laura whispered, guiding him discreetly toward the runway at the back. They took a position near a mirrored pillar, partly obscured, but with a clear view of the runway. Oliver's pulse quickened painfully, each breath shallow with anticipation. As the lights dimmed, a hush settled over the crowd. An announcer's smooth voice resonated through hidden speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's exclusive collection, brought to you by the visionary genius Julian Beaumont. Applause filled the space briefly before silence reclaimed it. Oliver's muscles tightened involuntarily at Beaumont's name. Lavra leaned closer, whispering sharply, "Stay calm. Watch closely, Oliver. Stay in control." Models appeared, gliding effortlessly down the runway, adorned in dazzling outfits. Faces stoic, eyes distant. Oliver's eyes searched frantically until finally, under a spotlight brighter than the rest, Amelia stepped out. Oliver's heart stopped. She was breathtaking, graceful, poised. But it wasn't her elegance that seized him, it was her eyes. Those unmistakable dark eyes that carried echoes of innocence lost, haunted yet fierce. The white streak in her hair seemed even brighter beneath the spotlight, like a ghostly flame dot. It was Rachel. There was no doubt. He felt Laura's reassuring hand grip his arm tightly, keeping him steady. His chest tightened painfully, emotions rising chaotically within him: relief, joy, anger, desperation. "Oliver, breathe," Lavra whispered, noticing the distress etched on his face. Suddenly, Rachel's gaze swept the crowd and landed squarely on Oliver. For one brief, electrifying moment, their eyes locked. Time froze. Oliver felt certain recognition, pain, and urgency flash across her face before fear quickly clouded her features. Immediately, two broad-shouldered men in dark suits emerged discreetly from shadows near the runway, eyeing Rachel carefully. She broke eye contact abruptly, visibly shaken, finishing her walk stiffly, her expression carefully blank again. Lavra tugged Oliver's sleeve, urgently pulling him back into deeper shadows. "Security noticed something. We have to move now." "But—" "Lavra," Oliver resisted, desperate to reach Rachel. "Oliver, not here." "Trust me," Lavra commanded firmly, guiding him quickly through a side exit. Outside, the cool air hit Oliver sharply, jarring him from his emotional stupor. Laura's expression was tense, her eyes scanning the street warily. "She saw me, Laura. She recognized me, I know it." Oliver's voice shook violently with adrenaline and hope. "Yes, she did," Lavra agreed grimly. "And her fear confirms our suspicions. Someone dangerous is controlling her every move. Beaumont likely knows we were there. We must tread carefully." Oliver paced restlessly, frustration mounting. "We were so close. We still are," Lavra reassured, her voice calm but strained. "We'll approach carefully now. Let me dig deeper into Beaumont. We need solid proof connecting him directly to Rachel." That night, Oliver sat awake, consumed by restlessness. He replayed Rachel's frightened expression repeatedly in his mind. The guilt from 20 years ago returned, suffocating and overwhelming. Early the next morning, Oliver received an urgent call from Lavra. "Oliver, meet me immediately at the office. I've found something significant." He arrived within minutes, heart pounding nervously. Lavra waited anxiously, files scattered chaotically around her. "What is it?" Oliver demanded. She took a breath, steadying herself. "Julian Beaumont isn't just a stylist. He has documented ties to an elite network involved in human trafficking models. Young women, some of whom vanished without a trace." Oliver's blood chilled, nausea rising. "Then Rachel might be their victim," Lavra finished grimly. "This could explain her fear, her secrecy. Beaumont's reach is extensive: politicians, celebrities, powerful men who can cover anything. Exposing them won't be easy." Oliver stood frozen, shock morphing quickly into rage. "We have to save her, Lavra. I'll do anything." Lavra nodded solemnly. "I know, Oliver. But one misstep could be fatal for Rachel, for us both. Let's move carefully." Later that afternoon, Oliver returned home, exhaustion pressing heavily. As he unlocked his door, something fell lightly to his feet. A small envelope slipped under the threshold. He knelt immediately, heart racing as he opened it. Inside, a note written in hurried handwriting. Oliver, I saw you. I remember. You're in danger, and so am I. They watch everything. Trust no one but Laura. Help me, please. R. Oliver's hands trembled, staring at Rachel's handwriting. The note blurred briefly as tears filled his eyes, relief mingled with dread. Rachel knew him. She remembered. But danger was closer than ever. He glanced nervously around the empty hallway, paranoia rising. The note was proof Rachel was desperate. Trapped, pleading for help. Her words echoed darkly in his mind. They watch everything. Oliver locked the door tightly behind him, mind racing. His fingers brushed the delicate paper, eyes lingering on Rachel's urgent plea. He knew now the depth of danger they faced. Beaumont, the network, their invisible eyes watching everywhere. Each step forward would risk everything. But Rachel needed him. She needed him now more than ever. Oliver stood silently, gripping the note tightly, knowing this message changed everything. The truth was closer, darker, and more perilous than he ever imagined. But he was ready, and nothing would stop him from bringing Rachel home. Rachel awoke suddenly, her eyelids fluttering open as shadows danced across the ceiling. She could hear faint laughter from the backyard, guests still lingering at Oliver's birthday party. The comforting aroma of cake and barbecue smoke drifted lazily through her open window. But something else, unfamiliar and unsettling, hung in the air. Rachel sat up, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Her bedroom was dimly lit, moonlight filtering through lace curtains. She slipped from her bed, tiny bare feet padding silently toward the window. Gazing outside, she saw the party still illuminated by warm strings of lights, yet oddly distant from her safe, quiet room. A sudden noise behind her made Rachel turn sharply, heart fluttering. Before she could scream, a strong hand clamped tightly over her mouth, muffling her frightened cries. Her small body was pulled backward, panic flooding her limbs. She struggled weakly against powerful arms, barely registering whispered voices, urgently exchanging orders. Hurry, get her to the van. Beaumont wants this done clean and fast. Rachel glimpsed dark figures, their faces partially hidden by hoods. Her small body shook with terror, eyes wide and pleading, searching for her brother through the window. But Oliver remained outside, unaware, his laughter fading into the night as Rachel was dragged helplessly from the only home she'd ever known. In seconds, Rachel found herself shoved roughly into a dark van, doors slamming shut. The engine roared, softly pulling away from her street. She curled into a ball, tears streaming silently down her cheeks, unable to understand the nightmare into which she had just awakened. From the front seat, a voice murmured coldly, "This one's special. Beaumont paid double. Nobody messes up tonight, understood?" Rachel hugged herself tightly, the fear overwhelming her tiny frame. Her childhood innocence ripped away forever as the van sped silently into darkness. London, 2023. Present day. Oliver snapped awake abruptly, drenched in cold sweat, breathing ragged. The nightmare again. But this time, the shadowy figures had faces connected to the name now haunting him, Julian Beaumont. He rubbed his eyes, exhaustion weighing heavily on him. Laura's call had come minutes before sunrise, urgent and clipped. She'd found something concrete linking Beaumont to Rachel's disappearance. Oliver quickly dressed and rushed toward Laura's Camden office. When he arrived, Laura sat surrounded by dozens of old photos and financial documents scattered chaotically across her desk. Her face was pale, exhausted, but determined. "You need to see this, Oliver," Laura said gravely, sliding a faded photo across her desk toward him. Oliver's breath caught painfully in his throat. Rachel, young, innocent, smiling happily, the distinctive white streak of hair falling gently against her face. She wore the orange dress from that last night. Oliver stared numbly, voice choked with anger and grief. "Where did you find this?" "Julian. Beaumont's private archives. I managed to access his encrypted files remotely," Lavra explained cautiously. "He's been involved since the very beginning, Oliver. Rachel wasn't random. Beaumont specifically chose her." Oliver clenched his fists, rage surging through every vein. "He planned this 20 years ago," Lavra nodded solemnly. "And there's more. Elegance London isn't just a fashion magazine, it's the front of Beaumont's operation. He's using it to hide victims, funnel money, and protect powerful clients." Oliver's anger turned into resolve, a cold determination settling over him. "We have to expose him, Lavra, now." Lavra met his gaze, equally fierce. "I found his personal address. Tonight, we get inside, collect enough evidence to finally bring him down." That night, shadows engulfed the streets as Oliver and Lavra stood discreetly near the exclusive luxury apartment building Julian Beaumont called home. Lavra silently bypassed security measures with practiced ease, her movements precise. They reached his penthouse swiftly, slipping silently inside. The interior was opulent, sleek, and disturbingly sterile. Glass walls reflected distant city lights, expensive artwork adorning every wall. Lavra moved methodically through Beaumont's office, searching drawers and cabinets for incriminating evidence. Oliver's gaze fell upon a locked cabinet in the corner. Without hesitation, he forced it open, revealing stacks of photographs. He pulled them out shakily, horror gripping him as images of Rachel at various ages spread before him. Her childhood, her teenage years carefully documented, watched, and controlled. "Oliver," Lavra called urgently, holding up a detailed ledger. "Transactions, names, dates. This connects Beaumont to countless missing girls. We've got him." But before Oliver could respond, Laura's phone vibrated sharply. Her eyes widened. "It's Rachel's number, Amelia's number." "She's trying to call," Lavra whispered tensely, answering immediately. A desperate whisper echoed faintly through the phone. "Help me. They know you're there, run." At that instant, footsteps echoed outside the penthouse door. Oliver and Lavra exchanged terrified glances. They swiftly gathered the evidence, hearts racing, slipping out through a fire escape seconds before security burst inside. Meanwhile, across London, Rachel paced nervously backstage at an exclusive gala event, glancing fearfully around her. She had taken an enormous risk. Calling Laura her phone was undoubtedly monitored. She knew Beaumont's men were nearby, waiting for any slipdash up. Taking advantage of a brief moment unattended, Rachel quickly removed her heels, moving silently toward an emergency exit. Her heart thumped painfully as she pushed through, slipping into the darkness outside. She ran barefoot, lungs burning, until suddenly a firm hand seized her arm. "Miss Knight, going somewhere," a cold voice said, chilling her instantly. Rachel turned slowly, face pale. Beaumont's security loomed over her, their expressions blank and merciless. "Please," she whispered weakly, fighting tears, "let me go." "Beaumont doesn't tolerate disobedience," one man hissed, tightening his grip painfully. Rachel whimpered quietly as they roughly pulled her back inside, the hope of escape crushed cruelly once again. At the same moment, Lavra and Oliver reached the safety of her office. They laid the documents and photos out hurriedly, breathless, aware time was short. "We need to get this evidence public," Oliver insisted. "Expose Beaumont tonight." Lavra nodded firmly, reaching toward her computer. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the quiet office. Lavra and Oliver turned sharply, alarmed. Glass shards scattered across the floor. A brick hurled violently through the window. Attached to the brick was a note, crudely scrawled. "You went too far." Oliver's pulse quickened, panic rising. Lavra, before Lara could respond. Flames erupted from beneath the door, smoke quickly filling the small office. They had mere seconds to react. "Oliver, get out now." Lavra shouted, her voice strangled by smoke. Oliver moved to help her, but Lara pushed him away roughly. "The evidence, take it." "They won't silence me, I'll follow you." Oliver hesitated, then grabbed the documents and rushed toward the rear door. As he reached it, a deafening explosion ripped through the building, throwing him violently forward onto the pavement. He lay gasping, coughing, turning in horror. Laura's office was engulfed in flames. He staggered to his feet, stumbling toward the wreckage, screaming Laura's name desperately. Emergency sirens wailed, but Oliver heard nothing but his own voice, echoing hopelessly. His heart clenched painfully as he watched firefighters pull Laura's motionless body from the ruins. Medics worked furiously over her prone form, urgent voices shouting commands. Oliver stood frozen, realization dawning bitterly. Beaumont had known exactly how to strike, ruthless, merciless, willing to destroy anything in his path. "Sir." A paramedic touched Oliver's shoulder gently. "She's alive, but it's critical." Oliver stared numbly, his breath shallow. This was a warning, terrifyingly clear. He and Rachel were next. Beaumont was powerful, relentless, and would stop at nothing to protect his dark empire. As he watched Lavra rushed away in an ambulance, Oliver's resolve hardened like steel. Beaumont thought fear would silence them, but he'd miscalculated. Oliver would fight. He'd expose every buried truth, tear down every secret Beaumont hid behind. But deep inside, beneath his fury, dread clawed at him. Beaumont was prepared to kill, and Oliver knew that from this moment forward. Every step he took closer to Rachel brought them both ever nearer to death's cold embrace. Oliver sat alone on a cold metal bench outside the hospital's emergency room, gripping his head in trembling hands. The sterile, sharp smell of antiseptic lingered heavily around him, mixed with the muffled hum of machinery and distant, anxious voices. The scene of Laura's office engulfed in flames replayed incessantly in his mind. Each haunting image clawed deeper into his conscience. He blamed himself. If he'd never involved Lara, she wouldn't be lying unconscious, broken by Beaumont's ruthless power. Guilt consumed him, mingling dangerously with raw fury. His heart ached fiercely, anger pulsing in waves through every nerve. Beaumont would pay, Oliver swore silently, his fists clenching until the knuckles whitened. A weary nurse approached cautiously. "Mr. Brooks?" Oliver raised his head sharply, eyes hollow and desperate. "How is she?" "She's stable but still critical," the nurse replied gently. "She suffered severe smoke inhalation and internal injuries. We're doing all we can." Oliver exhaled slowly, pain tightening his chest. "Thank you," he whispered. He stood, drained and unsteady, stepping out into London's chilly night. Darkness engulfed him, amplifying the loneliness gnawing at his soul. Lavra had almost sacrificed her life for Rachel, his Rachel. He couldn't allow more innocence to suffer. He had to act swiftly, decisively, even recklessly, if necessary. And now, alone, Oliver resolved he would cross any line to end Beaumont's reign. The next evening, Oliver waited silently in a shadowed alley near Soho, watching intently as Beaumont's assistant, Stephen Collier, exited an upscale restaurant. Oliver's breath quickened, adrenaline flooding his veins. He stepped from the shadows, blocking Collier's path. "Stephen Collier," Oliver growled quietly, voice laced with menace. "We need to talk." Collier jolted backward, startled. "Who?" "Oliver." seized Collier roughly by the collar, pushing him firmly against a brick wall. Julian Beaumont, Amelia Knight. Elegance London, ring a bell? Collier paled, eyes darting fearfully. Look, I don't know anything. Oliver slammed Collier harder against the wall, voice low and dangerous. I'm done with lies. Beaumont nearly killed someone dear to me. If you don't talk now, you're next. Collier trembled violently, eyes wide with terror. All right, please calm down. Beaumont has a gala event planned at Crown Hill Mansion tomorrow night. It's invite only, highly exclusive. Amelia, I mean Rachel, will be featured prominently. She's important to him. Oliver pressed harder. Why Crown Hill? Collier swallowed. Nervously. He's introducing Rachel officially to certain powerful clients, important men, politicians, executives. It's a showcase, Oliver. It solidifies her place in Beaumont's network permanently. Oliver's stomach churned violently, disgusted at the implication. How do I get in? Collier hesitated fearfully. Oliver's voice hardened further. How? I can get you an invitation, Collier stammered desperately. But please, leave me out of it. Beaumont will kill me if he knows I helped you. Oliver released Collier roughly, eyes ice cold. Have the invitation delivered discreetly to me by tomorrow morning. If Beaumont learns about this conversation, your problems with him will be the least of your worries. Oliver walked away swiftly, leaving Collier shaking in the shadows. Meanwhile, Rachel sat silently in her luxurious but oppressive suite, heart heavy, anxiety clawing relentlessly at her thoughts. Beaumont had summoned her earlier, his words icy and precise, echoing cruelly in her ears. If Oliver interferes again, I'll make him suffer in ways you can't imagine. Cooperate tomorrow, and maybe Oliver survives. Rachel's fists tightened. Helplessly, memories of Beaumont's past cruelties flooding her mind. Years of psychological manipulation surged vividly, constant threats, isolation, punishment. She remembered vividly the first time Beaumont had hit her, coldly whispering promises of worse if she ever resisted again. Rachel had become accustomed to his twisted form of control, slowly losing herself in fear and despair. Yet now, knowing Oliver was near, courage stirred faintly within her. She paced anxiously, torn between hope and paralyzing dread. The following night arrived swiftly. Oliver stood before a gilded mirror in his cramped flat, adjusting the tailored tuxedo Collier provided. He tucked carefully collected evidence, photos, ledgers, audio recordings, into the inner lining of his jacket. Tonight was his one chance to expose Beaumont. He knew the risks. If anything went wrong, both he and Rachel might never escape. Alive, Crown Hill Mansion glittered brilliantly against the night sky, lights spilling warmly onto manicured gardens. Limousines lined the driveway as London's elite arrived. Oliver presented his invitation confidently, heart pounding fiercely as he entered. Inside, glamour mixed deceptively with sinister undertones. Waitstaff moved silently, expensive champagne. Glasses glinting beneath chandeliers, masking the true purpose beneath the luxury. Across the crowded room, Rachel appeared on Beaumont's arm, stunning yet visibly uneasy. Her eyes briefly scanned the crowd, desperately seeking Oliver's familiar face. When she finally saw him, a flicker of relief flashed briefly across her features, quickly replaced by terror as Beaumont leaned down, whispering something chillingly. Intimate into her ear. Oliver watched helplessly, heart clenched painfully. He needed an opening, a moment to approach Rachel discreetly. He mingled cautiously, nerves taut, feeling the heavy gazes of Beaumont's security everywhere. Rachel's breath quickened as Beaumont tightened his grip on her wrist discreetly, whispering coldly, "I saw Oliver arrive. If you speak to him or step out of line tonight, I'll personally ensure he dies before morning." Rachel shuddered, fear stabbing deeply. Beaumont smiled cruelly, releasing her wrist only as guests approached. Rachel's composure fractured internally, exhaustion from years of psychological torment finally pushing her near breaking. Yet through the fear, Rachel remembered Oliver's determination, his courage. She owed him and herself a final act of bravery. Oliver was risking everything for her. She had to find the strength within herself, no matter how terrifying the consequences. Oliver moved slowly toward a quiet corridor, away from the main hall. He leaned momentarily against a carved mahogany door, breathing heavily. Suddenly, footsteps approached quickly behind him. Oliver turned sharply, startled. Rachel stood there, pale yet resolute. "Rachel," he breathed shakily. She stepped closer, eyes filled with urgency. "Oliver, listen carefully. Beaumont is planning something tonight. He intends to announce me officially to his clients. After tonight, he'll move me far from London. We have no time." Oliver reached toward her instinctively, voice firm yet gentle. "I'll expose him, Rachel. Trust me." Rachel glanced fearfully around, ensuring privacy. "Oliver, if you do this, Beaumont won't hesitate to kill you. He has eyes everywhere." Oliver stepped closer, determination flaring fiercely. "I won't lose you again. Tonight ends this nightmare." Rachel hesitated, tears gathering softly in her eyes, courage fighting fear. Her voice trembled yet clear. "Then we must work together. I know Beaumont's plan, exactly where he'll speak, who will attend. If you disrupt him publicly, it might be enough, but it's risky." Oliver nodded gravely. "I'll risk everything to save you, Rachel." Rachel exhaled slowly, voice shaking softly. "At midnight, Beaumont will address everyone in the main ballroom. He'll unveil his project me. It's your best opportunity. But Oliver, be careful. Beaumont's men are ruthless." Oliver grasped her hand tightly, voice filled with fierce conviction. "Stay strong, Rachel. Trust me. This ends tonight." Rachel held his gaze steadily, newfound resolve solidifying her trembling heart. "I trust you, Oliver. I always have." She stepped quickly back toward the crowd, leaving Oliver alone, heart surging with determination and dread. Tonight he faced Beaumont openly, exposing himself to unspeakable danger. But Rachel's courage fortified him. Tonight, boundaries would be crossed. Tonight, he risked everything to reclaim the sister he'd lost 20 years before. But deep within him, an unsettling fear remained, whispering darkly, this fight would cost more than either of them imagined. Crown Hill Mansion was a picture of extravagant elegance, an architectural masterpiece bathed in golden lights, casting gentle illumination over its immense manicured gardens. Luxury cars lined the curved driveway, their polished surfaces reflecting the mansion's dazzling glow. Guests stepped gracefully onto the marble entryway, dressed impeccably, their laughter bright and carefree, a stark, disturbing contrast to the sinister intentions lurking beneath the polished facade. Inside, chandeliers dripped with glittering crystals, illuminating a ballroom filled with London's elite. Ornate mirrors and intricate tapestries lined the towering walls, reflecting the elaborate elegance of the room. Servers glided smoothly among the guests, their trays bearing flutes of champagne and delicate hors d'oeuvres. A soft symphony wafted from hidden speakers, lending an air of sophistication to the evening. Oliver stood quietly near the grand staircase, heart pounding relentlessly, observing the room's subtle, sinister energy. His jaw tightened, knowing each lavish detail was carefully arranged by Julian Beaumont, a man whose refined exterior concealed monstrous cruelty. Oliver scanned the ballroom, searching desperately for Rachel, a cold anxiety gripping his chest. Then, she appeared. Rachel descended the grand staircase slowly, her dress shimmering under the brilliant lights, beauty and sorrow intertwined in her delicate features. Oliver's breath caught painfully, his heart wrenching at seeing her. He saw beyond the glamour, the fear behind her carefully controlled gaze, the fragility beneath her confident posture. That she was beautiful, yes, but above all, she was trapped. As Rachel reached the bottom step, her eyes met Oliver's. Time seemed to freeze, the noise and opulence fading to insignificance. Rachel's heart quickened, relief flooding her, yet tempered by fear. Oliver discreetly moved toward the balcony doors, indicating subtly for her to follow. Minutes later, Rachel slipped quietly onto the deserted balcony, the evening breeze cool against her flushed cheeks. Oliver stood facing the gardens below, back tense, shoulders heavy with the weight of their shared past. He turned slowly, eyes brimming with emotions he had long suppressed. "Rachel," he whispered brokenly, taking a hesitant step toward her. Rachel's composure shattered instantly, tears streaming down her cheeks as Oliver gently enveloped her in his arms. She trembled violently, relief and sorrow flooding over her. The warmth of his embrace awakened memories she'd fought desperately to bury. "I missed you so much," Oliver choked softly, voice filled with anguish. "I never stopped searching, never gave up hope." Rachel pulled back slightly, looking up at him through tear-filled eyes. "I know, Ollie. I felt it every day. Your strength kept me alive." Oliver's heart broke further at her fragile admission, guilt resurfacing bitterly. "I should have protected you." "No," Rachel interrupted firmly, placing her hand gently against his face. "None of this was your fault. Beaumont took my life from me, from us, but tonight we reclaim it. Together." Oliver nodded solemnly, determination igniting his features. He gently squeezed her hands, voice steady yet gentle. "Are you ready?" Rachel inhaled deeply, fear momentarily shadowing her gaze. Then, a quiet courage ignited within her, driving away hesitation. "Yes, let's end this nightmare." Returning to the crowded ballroom, Rachel moved gracefully toward the central dais. Oliver discreetly positioned himself near a small side table, setting up his smartphone, ready to broadcast live evidence of Beaumont's crimes. Rachel briefly caught Oliver's eye, exchanging a subtle nod, signaling their plan was set. Julian Beaumont strode confidently to the microphone, impeccable tuxedo immaculate, charm masking his inner darkness. The room fell respectfully silent. As he addressed the guests, his voice smooth and calculated. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight marks a significant moment, introducing our newest face of elegance, Amelia Knight." Applause erupted politely, unaware of the sinister undertones. Rachel moved stiffly toward Beaumont's side, heart pounding with dread. Beaumont's hand lightly touched her arm, grip subtly forceful. "Smile, Rachel," he murmured threateningly. "We wouldn't want to disappoint our esteemed guests." Across the room, Oliver activated his live feed discreetly, adrenaline surging. Online viewers multiplied rapidly, thousands witnessing the truth emerging in real time. Oliver's voice was calm yet firm as he quietly narrated details of Beaumont's trafficking operation, displaying photos, documents, and undeniable evidence directly to the world. Simultaneously, murmurs rippled through the audience as alerts spread among smartphones, confusion and shock replacing carefree chatter. Beaumont's confident mask slipped briefly, eyes narrowing dangerously, sensing disruption. Oliver stepped forward boldly, voice rising clearly above murmuring guests. "Julian Beaumont isn't who he claims. He kidnapped my sister, Rachel Brooks, 20 years ago. Amelia Knight is Rachel, a victim forced into silence and exploitation. Beaumont controls a powerful trafficking network hidden beneath his fashion. Empire. Tonight it ends. Gasps filled the room. Beaumont's face twisted darkly, his charming facade collapsing rapidly into rage. Security advanced swiftly toward Oliver, but another voice sharply intervened. "Stop." Lavra Harrington appeared, stepping confidently into the ballroom, flanked by uniformed police officers. Her voice echoed strongly, eyes blazing defiantly despite injuries sustained in Beaumont's previous attack. "Julian Beaumont, you're under arrest for kidnapping, human trafficking, and attempted murder." Chaos erupted instantly. Guests scattered. Security froze, uncertain, as officers swiftly apprehended Beaumont's closest guards. Rachel pulled free from Beaumont's weakened grasp, stepping defiantly beside Oliver. Beaumont's cold eyes settled chillingly on Rachel. "You betrayed me," he hissed venomously. "You'll regret this." Rachel straightened bravely, voice steady despite internal fear. "You don't control me anymore." Beaumont laughed bitterly, his demeanor shifting suddenly to dangerous. "Come, you think you've won? Rachel, you're merely one victim among hundreds. My empire reaches beyond your imagination. You haven't begun to uncover the real darkness." Oliver tensed, alarmed. Beaumont's words dripped coldly with menace, revealing depths of cruelty previously unknown. "What do you mean?" Oliver demanded sharply. Beaumont's smile returned. Chillingly composed. "Did you really think Rachel was the first? Or the only one? I've trafficked countless others, all of her young women, children, innocents, traded to powerful clients across continents. You exposed nothing but a fraction of my work." Rachel shuddered visibly, horror tightening her features. Oliver stared numbly, realizing the scope of Beaumont's crimes stretched far beyond their comprehension. Lavra stepped firmly beside Oliver and Rachel, unwaveringly resolute despite Beaumont's revelations. "You won't intimidate us," Lavra said coldly, voice steady. "We'll find every victim, dismantle your entire operation piece by piece." Beaumont's expression remained chillingly confident, voice quiet yet deadly. "You underestimate the reach of my allies, Detective Harrington. My downfall means nothing. Others will continue. You've saved, no one merely delayed the inevitable." Oliver clenched his fists, rage and dread twisting painfully within him. Beaumont's cruel words echoed ominously through the chaotic ballroom, underscoring a frightening truth. They had barely scratched the surface. Rachel gripped Oliver's hand tightly, determined despite overwhelming fear. "We can't stop. Now, there are others who need us." Oliver nodded slowly, heart burdened yet resolute. They had confronted evil directly tonight, exposing unimaginable cruelty. Yet Beaumont's revelations haunted Oliver deeply, leaving a chilling awareness. The battle for justice had barely begun. Crown Hill Mansion's ballroom erupts into chaos as tactical police storm in, arresting Julian Beaumont and his guards. Protected by officers, Oliver clutches his sister Rachel while Detective Lavra Harrington, bruised but resolute, coordinates the operation. From encrypted files, Lavra learns of another holding site, a Thameside warehouse, prompting an immediate night raid. Oliver, Rachel, and a specialized unit breach the building, freeing frightened women and children from cages. The rescue triggers painful flashbacks for Rachel, yet she comforts a terrified girl, proving her resilience. Back at the station, Rachel gives a harrowing statement. After her 2003 abduction, Beaumont isolated her, forced her new identity, Amelia Knight, and used psychological torture to ensure obedience. Oliver's unwavering memory of her was her lifeline. Public release of the evidence topples Beaumont's trafficking empire. High-profile accomplices are arrested worldwide. Weeks later, Oliver and Rachel return to Brighton and share an emotional reunion with their elderly parents, beginning their family's healing. Meanwhile, Laura, reviewing case notes alone, receives a chilling anonymous call. Beaumont was only a pawn, and the larger network is still active. The voice warns that the real fight has just begun, leaving Laura and the audience aware that deeper darkness still lurks.